Hello and welcome back to the Across the Pod NFL podcast as we preview week 4. I am, as ever, your host, Andy Davis. And as you'll know, I'm a Dolphins fan, and the team we play this week is the Titans. So I'm bringing with me back on show is our Titans fan from Transatlantic Titans, Greg Kett. Greg, how are you?
I'm good, Andy. Thanks for having me on. Although I don't really feel particularly happy about talking about the Titans at the moment. I suppose we better try and find something else to talk about instead if we can.
Well, if I'm honest, it's not really much more positive from my end. It's certainly, I think you were probably expecting to be a really difficult start of the year, but I wasn't expecting to go 1-2. I was expecting, probably to lose to the Bills, if not at least give them a good account themselves. But I was expecting to win against the Seahawks and the Jags. So, it's been a tough start so far. I don't see really getting any better anytime soon. Now, not only have you had the dismay of seeing the Titans being bad, you've had the probably somewhat misfortune of being at those games, all three of the games, which has caused a very entertaining profile picture on your Twitter, which is very humorous of you with your head in your hands. I'm assuming after Will Levis, Alicia's inner Nate Peterman / Brett Favre combination. How was that? Because you went, obviously, we talked about it on the Titans season preview. You did, obviously, the Titans game on the weekend just gone in Tennessee. You did Soldier Field week 2, and I forget, was it in Tennessee, your week 1 game against the Buccaneers?
No, so week 1 at Soldier Field and then back-to-back at home against the Jets and then Green Bay. So
yes, that's it. Yeah, I was trying to think. I remember the Bears. I remember Soldier Field. I remember the Packers game. I just forgot who the other team was. But obviously, you've been to Tennessee a lot of times before. It was your first time going to Soldier Field. How was that overall experience for you?
Yes, first time in Chicago, not just Soldier Field, and it was a city that I've never really been that bothered about going to in a weird way. I kind of just saw it as a mini New York and thought, take it or leave it. But when it came week 1, we always go over in September, and week 1 was a perfect opportunity to go. And then the game itself, the way that it played out was incredibly frustrating because we were well on top for certainly the first half. We were 17 points up in the game. The defense were incredible, absolutely incredible. And we talk about the Bears having what we thought were going to have a high-powered offense this year with the acquisitions they brought in, as well as Caleb Williams himself. We all pretty much at halftime thought this is about as good as done. We didn't really see a way back as long as we kind of continued in the same way as we were going, and then in the end it was just a few big moments, starting with a blocked punt. And I actually ironically texted a good friend of mine saying that it feels like there's going to be a momentum changing play coming up, and pretty much lifted my head up as the punt was about to happen and watched that happen, and then followed up with the interception from pick 6 from Levis, and in the end the second half never really got going. And that was a game that I look back at now and think it could have been very, very different. That's not the case with what I saw on Sunday, but it was one of those games where it's just frustrating as a Titans fan to be 17 points up in any game and losing it is not really where you want to be. And then the second week against the Jets was a relatively similar picture. We never had the big lead that we had against Chicago, but there were times in that game where I think we could have kicked on and won it. And in the end, it was just big moments again that cost us. And another blocked punt, ironically, kind of started that downfall. And actually, Levis with the turnover, trying to make a bit of a hero play out of nothing, actually started it. But the blocked punt and then kind of continued it. And in the end, Rodgers did enough. The defense again were fantastic, and for the most part, and it was just one of those games that you kind of would just flush and forget. And then the Green Bay game, I'll quickly run into it. I don't want to talk about it too much because it's depressing as hell, because it's probably one of the worst performances I've seen from a Titans team in a number of years. And we've played some bad football in the last couple of years, but this for me was one of the worst. The stadium was full of Packers fans. It was very much a home game that didn't feel like a home game. And at points in the game, it just kind of felt like we just gave up, and nothing epitomised that more than we had a holding call and a missed field goal. So Narveson missed the field goal. Holding call gave him first down, and then it was, I think, maybe 2 plays later, they went and scored, and that really, not a single Titans player wanted to make a tackle on Jalen Reed on that one. Just a frustrating afternoon, frustrating start to the season. I didn't think we'd be 0-3. I wasn't expecting us to be 2-1 or 3-0, but I was certainly expecting us to win at least one of those games. And in the end, it is what it is, and we move forward into Monday Night Football, which is going to be a really interesting showdown.
Absolutely, and we actually, you mentioned yourself, you're arriving at Heathrow. I also arrived at Heathrow on the same day, not the same time, which would be a mad coincidence, but as you all know from the last episode, we didn't do a week 3 review because I was away on holiday in Dubai, so I didn't really give my take on the Dolphins game against the Seahawks. And you mentioned the Titans game being one of the worst you've ever seen from your team. This up there for me. Is one of the worst I've seen from a Dolphins team. I think I always look back at those 2 games in the first 2 weeks of 2019 when you get blown out by, I believe, the Ravens or Patriots. One of them scored like 50 odd points and didn't let in a single point in, and then the other one was like 59 or 49-7. I remember those 2 weeks being a really terrible time to be a fan, but this is up there for me because back in 2019, I was expecting us to do badly. It wasn't like there wasn't much hope going to season. I never really ever knew us to ever be good at any point. Whereas this season, you go into it with a lot of hope. Could win the AFC East, and you've got Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle, and I'm fully aware that the season's not over yet. It's only 3 games in, but that was one of the worst performances I've ever seen from the Dolphins team. I know quarterback position was hurt, but neither quarterback. Tim Boyle wasn't that bad, but Skylar Thompson was awful. And the defense actually at times played really well. There was the couple of interceptions, and we managed to, get an interception and get like the 5-6 yard line, and then just didn't get a single point from that drive. I know it would have been a lot different if it was the first quarter rather than third or fourth, but you felt like that particular play, go down the field, get a touchdown quickly, that could have completely changed the game. But we didn't score a single point. Seahawks score on the next drive, and now it's the game over, really. And yeah, I think there was a point. I think Julian Hill, our tight end, he had a penalty against him, which would have brought us to the 1 yard line. Instead, it brought us back to the 20 yard line. It just killed the drive. And Julian Hill, I did a tweet about it. Probably is the worst player I've ever seen in the Dolphins jersey. I know I'm a youngish fan, 14 years or so, but he is dreadful. I've not seen him do anything good apart from the other thing I've seen him do literally in his time at the Dolphins is literally not catch balls and have penalties against him. So it was one awful performance that was. Granted, Seahawks are 3-0. They deserve a lot of credit, but that was dreadful. That was dreadful. Of course, the last episode we did obviously have myself as well as Steve and Luke on. It wasn't a good week. All 3 of us had the lowest scores of the week. So me and Luke had 6 correct scores. So I did have the Eagles beat the Saints, but I had a lot of teams to win. Like, I had the Arizona Cardinals beating the Lions. I had the Browns beating the Giants. Raiders beating the Panthers, and Steve had 7. So he did go for the Commanders to beat the Bengals, which was probably the biggest shout of the week. So still with 7 points, as it stands, me and Luke are tied for the bottom of the leaderboard with 6, and still leading from week 1 is Sam Andrews. Now, Greg, you've got 11 to beat and 6 to try and avoid. Confident of avoiding that low score?
So I do a pick'ems pretty much every week, and the first week I had pretty much a barnstormer, which I think I only got 2 wrong in the entire week. So if I can continue with that kind of form, great. But I think I'd probably be somewhere in between. Hopefully, it's 8 or 9. I'll be quite happy with.
Yeah, same. Anything to improve on my score last week. That was dreadful.
It's been tough this year. I don't know. There seems to be quite a few upsets around the league, though. So, none more than that week 1, actually. Week 2, I should say. Even there was so many games there I wasn't expecting to go the way they did. Even week 1 with the Bengals losing to the Patriots, that was pretty much my home banker, or not banker of the week, I should say. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, it's been a crazy year. I mean, we'll talk about it more in a minute, but the fact that the likes of Sam Darnold and the fact that he's resurged and only one quarterback until last week had over 320 yards passing in a game. Derek Carr had a great start to the year, and quarterbacks you're not expected to do well are just doing really well. So, yeah, it's been quite interesting season so far. And it starts off on Thursday Night Football as the Dallas Cowboys travel to MetLife Stadium to take on the Giants. Once again, we get this game on prime time. I don't know why every year we get Giants Cowboys. Every year at MetLife, it's like it's just beyond me. Like I know the Cowboys are the Cowboys, but the Giants haven't been good since they won a Super Bowl in 2011. And even that was as a wild card. I think this is one of the easy ones to call. I'm going to go for a Dallas win. I liked how I know they had a really bad 3 quarters against the Ravens, but I like the way they came back and showed fight in that game against the Ravens last week. And the Giants, they won, granted, yes, against Browns, but I don't see them winning back-to-back games. And I just think the Cowboys will want to get back to winning ways, and I think this will be a perfect chance to do that. So I'm going to give Dallas the win. Greg, who you take?
Yeah, same here. I think I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any stretch, but I think it'll be quite a narrow win. But I think they'll win that probably by a score.
I can see CeeDee Lamb being a big fantasy favourite on Thursday night. Moving on to the 6 p.m. slate. First of all, we've got the New Orleans Saints traveling to the Falcons. Greg, who's winning this game?
I'm going to go Falcons. I think the Saints have started relatively well, but I think Atlanta are better than their 1 and 2, what they are right now. I think they're slowly piecing some things together. I was actually quite impressed with how they played against the Chiefs at times. I think that they'll win that again, not by a massive margin, but I think they'll win it. I
agree. I think the Saints had a good first 2 weeks, and I did call them to have the hype train end in week 3, and obviously that did happen. And I think it wasn't just a loss; it was I know it was close, but I don't think either team really held themselves in glory in that game against the Eagles last time out. And I think you're right. I think the Falcons have really got better each week. The first week they were terrible, granted, against the Steelers, but since then, the way they came back against the Eagles on that Monday Night Football game, then on a shorter week to go out and almost beat the Chiefs and take them right to the end, and there was one of the holding calls that wasn't given. It could have been a win easily. They gave the Chiefs a good run for their money. I think when the receiving call there is great. You got Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Bijan Robinson. I think now he's away from Arthur Smith. He's just elevating his game, and they've got a great back to fall back on Algier. The defense has been mostly pretty good, and I think they'll get the win as well at home. I do think they'll get the win. I think they're rolling right now, and they are due a win. To be fair, that Chiefs game they could have won that easily. Moving on to the Rams traveling to the Bears. If this game was last week, I'd have said the Bears to win, but I think the Rams show me something that they are still a good team. That comeback win against the Niners. What a comeback win that was. They were at one point, I think 21-7 down midway through the third quarter. Ended up winning that game in the last second field goal. I've got the win in this game as well against the Bears. I've not been impressed with the Bears at all. Whether it's Caleb Williams missing open receivers or whether it's DeAndre Swift having a terrible 4th down play. I think that Williams, I know he had the yardage last weekend, the most of any rookie so far, but I don't, if I'm honest, I don't really see anything from him so far. I'll go on to another guy later on who's outshining him, who was taken later on in the draft at the quarterback position. But for me, Williams hasn't been that great. It's a lot of screen passes, a lot of check down plays, not really seen anything near that we saw in college, or even that one preseason game he had, I believe, against the Bengals, where he sort of scrambled to his left and through to Roma Dunes. I haven't really seen anything from him that's thought. I've seen that he could be the guy in the future, and I'm not going to ever write him off after 3 weeks, but I think, especially rookie year, I don't really fancy him at all to win this game, and I think the Rams slowly get back to business. So I'm going to give the Rams the win. Greg, over to you.
I'm gonna go with a Bears win because I think that defense is legit, and I think the Rams are missing some really, really big parts of their offense right now. I think this could end up being a bit of a field goal fest. I don't think it's going to be a particularly high-scoring game. I agree with all your points on the Bears offensively. They've been very underwhelming. I think they'll slowly piece it together. And I think I mentioned this when we did the season preview around. I was happier to play the Bears in week 1 than I would have been if it was week 10. I do think they'll get better. I think it will be close. It'll be like a 15-12 game, something like that. But I'm going to go with the Bears.
Well, what a nice segue for our next team, the Vikings taking on the Packers. So we haven't announced it on Twitter yet, but we are going to announce it in the next couple of days. We are heading to Tottenham, to the London games. We have gained access, press pass access to both Tottenham games. Wembley's still TBC. So, yeah, if you are listening or watching on YouTube, expect a lot of content to come up in the future over those London games, whether it's fan interaction, whether it's... I'll be going to the tailgate for the Vikings on the Saturday before their game against the Jets. And I've gained myself as well training day access for the Patriots before the Wembley game, as well as the Jets prior to the first Tottenham game and the Jaguars prior to the second. So that's something to look forward to on this podcast coming up in October, as well as my trip to Miami to watch the Dolphins play the Cardinals. So yeah, October is a busy month on the podcast and over my TikTok, Andy Talks NFL. So do spread the word and keep an eye out for all the content that's going to come over the next 60 days or so out of the London games. And Vikings are one of the teams we saw play. They're taking on the Packers in Lambeau Field. Greg, who is winning this game?
I'm going to go Green Bay. I think I was really impressed with what I saw. I think Matt LaFleur has built his offense this year since the injury to Love fantastically. I think he's gone and looked at, okay, what is going to make this offense under Malik Willis succeed? And he knows that you've got to beat them in the trenches and you've got to get the ball out of Willis's hands as quickly as possible in order to, you don't necessarily have to make shots down the field. I think there's probably only 2 attempts he did at that on Sunday. You just got to get your ball into your playmakers and let them go and get you yards. And that's exactly what he's done. Because that was my biggest concern with Green Bay when Love went down, was offensively, would they have enough? Defensively, they're a solid outfit. We know that. And I think they'll have enough. Minnesota have been very, very good. But I think at Lambeau, I think they'll go 3-1, and Green Bay will also be 3-1.
I've gone for the Packers as well. I do think that as good as it's been so far for the Vikings, it's been amazing. Sam Darnold looks a whole different player to what we've seen, and he's finally got a good coach in there. But I do think the hype train stops here. I think the Packers, I think they're my NFC champion for a reason. I'm going to stick with them to win this game. I don't know how you feel about this. I don't know whether it is Love or whether it's Willis playing on Sunday, but the Willis I'm seeing in Green Bay is nowhere near the Willis I was seeing in Tennessee. In a positive way for him. I mean, if I'm honest, when I watched him in Tennessee, I thought this guy is not NFL quality. He's not an NFL starter, and I'm fully aware that he didn't really have many chances to start and all that kind of stuff. But what I've seen in Green Bay, it's been, Sam Darnold obviously is getting the main sort of talk about, but I think Willis deserves a lot of praise. He's been outstanding, and the way Levis has played so far, we'll talk about him more later on. But does it almost pain you the fact that he could have been? You didn't get this Willis to Tennessee. You didn't get this amazing version of Willis we're getting in Green Bay. Is it down to coaching, or why do you think it's been so much better for him in Green Bay compared to Tennessee?
It is 100% down to coaching, and I mentioned this just a minute ago with LaFleur being, what he's done is what the Titans should have done with Willis in the first place. You've got to play to your quarterback's strengths. You've got to play to, okay, we know he's good at this. We need to develop in other areas, but no, there's a quarterback like Willis is never going to be the finished article. But they didn't do that when he did have the opportunities. And we're kind of, I'll touch upon this a bit more with Levis as well, because it's a similar situation. The scheme that the Titans have played both previously as well as this season has been about, the complete scheme, when the reality is they don't have the roster or certainly the pass protection to play it. With Willis, I I see him being a very, very capable backup in this league. I do not think he's going to be starting for a team consistently year after year. I don't think he's quite got that football brain. There was a couple of times on Sunday that, he took relatively unnecessary sacks for keeping the ball a little bit too long. That was a massive problem that he had in Tennessee. I'm delighted for him because he's genuinely, probably, if you listen to his interviews and you listen to him talk, he's one of the most respectful human beings, and everyone in every Titans fan I know only wants good things for him. Aside from Sunday, we didn't want him to win that game, obviously, but he's one of those players. I don't think you can run an offense with him consistently for a full season or for a number of seasons. But what LaFleur has done is simplified his offense, has given Willis not too much to think about, and just gone and said, you know what, you're good at this, therefore go and do it. And that first drive against us on Sunday epitomized that. It was, everything was relatively intermediate, and then you're giving him some read action options, which for someone like Malik Willis, who has got good legs, as long as he's running forwards, he's going to gain you yards, and that's how he scored on the opening drive on Sunday. So, look, I'll be honest. I don't think in 6 weeks' time, if Love's still injured, I think he'll have probably some stinkers in there occasionally. But ultimately, LaFleur and that coaching team has done everything possible to give him the best chance of winning some football matches, and that's something that the Titans haven't done with Levis or with him. And there's other teams that have similar situations with how they set up their offenses. LaFleur has nailed that.
Well, one quarterback that has sort of benefited from good coaching is Justin Fields, as his Steelers take on the Indianapolis Colts in Indy. Now, I don't really think the Steelers are really a 3-0 team. I think they've been a bit. I think the defense has won in games more than the offense. I think Fields has maybe earned some unwanted praise. I don't think he's quite been the reason why they've won games. But either way, he has looked better than he did in Chicago, and I am going to give him the win. I think the Colts, I've really been let down by so far. I had the Colts be my surprise team. I had Richardson winning MVP as my sort of shock pick, and I was really high on him, but he has been, for me, not very good at all. I mean, there was that one play he made in week 1 against the Texans, which got me really excited, but I've seen a lot of careless picks by him. That one against the Bears on the weekend just gone around the red zone was just simply dreadful, and I don't think I think he needs time to. I don't think he should be playing. From watching him, albeit last season only 5 games, but from watching him this season alone, it is basically his rookie year. But I just feel like he needs time to learn off someone. What Bryce Young really should have had last year, and not been playing straight away, and. And I know some quarterbacks like CJ Stroud go in there and do well straight away, but not all quarterbacks can do that. I think Williams could even have some benefit from some time on the sidelines behind someone. And for me, it's just he's looked not good at all. I think the defense hasn't been great either. It's one of the worst run defenses this year so far. And I think that up against, a run game like Najee Harris and Jalen Warren, a 1-2 punch, I think this could be the reason. And obviously Fields as well, of course. A mobile quarterback like him, I think this Steelers team could ease to victory, maybe one of the more one-sided games of the weekend. So I'm gonna go with the Steelers. Greg, how about you?
I don't know if it'll be one-sided because the Colts are a funny team and they often like to. Well, they certainly upset me year after year. So I think it's going to be closer than being one-sided as you're suggesting. But I still have the Steelers to win it. The Colts, look, Richardson, I've never had a massively high opinion on Richardson. I know he's a bit of a freak of an athlete, and you respect that. But as a quarterback, even watching him in college, I'm a Tennessee Volunteers fan, and I watch a lot of Gators games against us, and I was never massively. I didn't buy into the hype in the same way as a lot of people seem to, and I think he's kind of shown all those things that I was concerned about coming into the season. He's shown that for me. Look, he might turn the corner and end up becoming a very, very good player. And if he does, then great for him. Not great for us, but great for him. But at the same time, I just don't believe the hype. And he gets a lot of hype, and I've not seen anything on tape yet that shows me why he should be getting any hype. He's incredibly mid to me, and yeah, I've got the Steelers to win it, probably by a score or so.
Well, as a Gators fan, I'm in on the hype. So I'm very much rooting for him. A guy, having watched, not obviously nowhere near as much as the Dolphins, having watched the Gators for a few years now, no one's probably excited me as much as him. I miss the Team Tebow era. I miss that Urban Meyer sort of era. I wasn't around for that bit. From my 5 years or so watching Gators games, he's probably the one that's given me the most excitement, albeit not being that great of an era for the Gators. He's been the one that sort of has given me, obviously, also some hair-raising moments, but I think there's been a lot of times where he has given me a lot of excitement as a fan, even if the team hasn't been doing that well on Saturday evenings. Next up is two teams that got wins in the Broncos traveling to the Jets. Greg, Jets or Broncos?
Yeah, I've gone Jets. I think the Broncos had an amazing win on Sunday, but I think that will come crashing to a halt. The Jets look pretty solid at the moment. I think they'll win that comfortably.
I agree. I think the Broncos, and they got their win against the Buccaneers, a very impressive win, a performance from Bo Nix. But the Jets, to me, even in their loss, I thought they looked good against Niners. And they've obviously gone out and probably shouldn't have won the game against you guys in week 2, but the week 3, it was very deserving. And I think I was overall very impressed with what I saw from Rodgers. From off the defense, I always knew was good, but I think from the connection with Breece Hall and particularly Garrett Wilson, like we all probably expected, it's been really good for me. And painful to say, I can see the Jets finishing higher than us in the AFC. So I think they could be even a playoff team. I think Rodgers may only have probably 1 year left in him, maybe 2 years at most. I think this could be his final dance, and whether they win a Super Bowl, I don't know. I think just making the playoffs is achievement because they haven't made the playoffs since 2010, the longest streak without a playoff appearance. I think they could end that this year. And I think for me, the Jets, you kind of seen that. You saw Buccaneers when Brady came in, where it was a bit of teething problems early on. They lost to the Saints quite heavily in the first week. And then they've got better as the season went on. And I think the Jets could even come in as a wildcard team, as second place in the AFC East, 5th or 6th seed. And I think that could be their way of trying to replicate Tom Brady and Matt Stafford. And I think they're not going to win a Super Bowl, but I think they're definitely going to go far if they play like they have done in these first 3 weeks. Eagles and Bucks is our next game. I'm going for the Eagles. I've gone for the Eagles most weeks so far. I do like the team. I know they've lost a game here and there, but I think they'll beat the Buccaneers. I think the Buccaneers are a good team, but I think the Eagles are just better. I think pound for pound, they got better run game, a better quarterback. Coaching, probably the only thing that Buccaneers have again. Obviously, run defense and coaching is probably the two things that the Buccaneers have over the Eagles. But I think the Eagles have everything else. They got better O-line, better running game, better quarterback. I said before. Now, the only thing I will say is that AJ Brown is still a question mark for the game. That could be a big thing. I think it was a big thing. It could have been a big thing against the Saints, but it wasn't, thankfully. I think if they get him back as well, even more reason why. But I think even if he wasn't there, and Devontae Smith, again, he's also been a bit of an injury doubt. But I backed this run game to give the Buccaneers some problems. They don't usually get at the running game position at the offside in the run defense. I do feel like, as is one of their biggest strengths, defensively wise, Buccaneers, I think the Eagles could still have the ability to cause them some rare problems in that area. Greg, how about you?
I think the Bucks are going to be that Jekyll and Hyde team this year, where they'll go and win some games impressively, and then lose to a Denver team that no one expected. And I think this one is going to be incredibly close. I have got, if AJ Brown is fit and if Devonta Smith's available, I think the Eagles will win. But I think it will be quite a close game again. I'm not 100% on board with Tampa's from a coaching perspective. I still think there's some question marks around that side of it. Baker Mayfield has shown moments of brilliance. That game against the Lions, I thought he put the team on his back to a certain extent, and he's capable of doing that. But at the same time, I think the Eagles will have enough to win this. close one, but one-score game.
Yeah, I think it's the one that if I'd change any last minute, it would be this one. I think if there's any sort of all the games I'm predicting, and I've got my predictions planned out for this week, if there's one game I think I could get wrong the most, I think this could be the one. I still think the Eagles will overall get it done. Now, next up is an interesting one. So you've got the Cincinnati Bengals, who are 0-3 against a 1-2 Carolina Panthers in Carolina. Now, the Bengals are playing their old quarterback, Andy Dalton, who is now starting for the Panthers. Greg, is Dalton going to go to his old team and turn him 0-4?
No, I don't think they are. I think the Bengals were just beaten by the better team on the night against Washington. They didn't really put much of a foot wrong. Washington were just better. And I don't think Carolina are going to do that. I think the Bengals will recover. They'll go 1-3. But Carolina were impressive this weekend. And everyone loves a comeback story. And certainly that Andy Dalton story is fascinating. I didn't agree with what the Panthers did with Young. I didn't see what that benefited in the long run for them, unless they've just decided he's not our guy, and he's never going to see the field again. I don't see the benefit of him being sat out like the way he has to a certain extent. You kind of need to see what you've got, and but yeah, I think the Bengals will go 1-3. They'll win that game.
Well, I think they're going to go 0-4. This is my shock of the week. I'm going for the Panthers to beat the Bengals. I think the O-line is just not very good in Cincinnati, and the Trent Brown injury was concerning at one point. You know, this Bengals team was so bad defensively. Offensively, they were great. You know, Chase Brown and Zach Moss looked like a fairly decent running back 1-2. Obviously, you've got Jamar Chase there, T. Higgins, and Joe Burrow, but the O-line just keeps. I don't know how Joe Burrow is still standing at the time. You think about all Tua's problems, injuries, and all that, and RG3 back in the day for Washington, and how Burrow is still going is incredible because that O-line, they just never seem to ever address his position. They try and get guys that don't work out. You know, they got Lyle Collins, that didn't work out. They keep getting guys in, and this never seems to work out. And Burrow, for me, his career is going to be potentially killed by this Bengals O-line. And I think the Panthers, you know, they looked really good. And it wasn't just a win against the Raiders. It was a demolition of the Raiders. And I think maybe if they won by 3 points, that's a field goal, maybe a bit like, oh, it's just one of those games. But the fact they actually put up some points, actually more points in one game than we put up the first 3 weeks combined, which is an embarrassing stat to have. It's not great. I think Dalton albeit he's limited. That's why Bengals didn't keep on to him. That's why he never won a playoff game. But I think Dalton, now, I think he's a great option to have. He's solid. He's dependable. He'll give you a solid 6 out of 10 performance. Never a 10 out of 10. Never a 0 out of 10. Just very reliable and solid. And I think, for a brief period, he's going to keep on winning games. And I think they're going to shock everyone at home as well by beating the Bengals. Next up, Jacksonville traveling to Houston Texans, another 0-3 team, and I think it'll be another 0-4 team. I think the Houston Texans will get back to winning ways after last week's loss to the Vikings. I can see Stroud and Diggs forming a real good partnership in this game. I put them in my DraftKings lineups. I think they're gonna, combine for, I think the receiving room is going to combine for 200, 300 yards between them. I think it's going to be a clinic. I think Jags look terrible. Trevor Lawrence, for me, was terrible against Bills. Really, really bad. Missed a lot of open receivers, a lot of just weak passes, and I see he's been talked about a lot this week, and Richard Sherman's talked about him, saying that he's just a better-looking Gardner Minshew. Now, I don't believe that is slightly because I think he's still an okay quarterback, and I think he's certainly not a bust. I think it takes a lot of work to be a bust. But I'm fully aware that he hasn't really lived up to what we all thought he's going to be, this guaranteed prospect, this can't miss guy. And he had that good year 2022 when he won a playoff game. But he hasn't won a game since Thanksgiving, which is crazy to me. 0-8 in his last 8 games. And for me, it's not going to. get any better, I don't think, against one of the best teams in the AFC on the road as well. So give me the Houston Texans. Greg?
Yeah, Texans for me. The Jags, it was alarming how bad it was for them against the Bills. They are Lawrence is a similar hype I see with Lawrence, where he had that stretch that you mentioned in 22 where they made the playoffs, but for the lot of that season, until the last, I think it was 7 games. I mean, the Titans absolutely blew that season. We ended up losing. I think the last 7. They won. I think the last 7. And apart from that stretch of games, he's not consistently shown any real quality whatsoever. Like they've come over to London and he's thrown interceptions in the red zone. They've been. He just hasn't been anywhere near the level that you would expect from him. And that's the opposite with CJ Stroud. Even though last week wasn't a good week for Houston, I do expect that they'll bounce back. They've got this division pretty much nailed down, to be honest with you. Even if they split the divisional games between now and the end of the year, they've got enough to go and win this division quite comfortably, because it feels like the other 3 teams in it are never going to find the consistency to compete with them.
Yeah, and I think you look at the AFC North as well, about how that's Steelers 3-0, Bengals 0-3, Ravens 1-2, or could have easily gone 0-3 if they hadn't. If there was a quarter more in that game against the Cowboys, I think they'd have lost that game as well. And then the Browns also 1-2. You know, the Steelers look like they've locked that division in as well, and I think the Texans. I think everyone knew they'd win the division. I think that was quite a widespread prediction going into the season that they did win that division, and yeah, I just think that they are head and shoulders clear of the Jags in every department.
I think just on the AFC North, I think there's more twists and turns that will come in that division. I do think the Ravens will probably come back and win that division. Whereas with the AFC South, I think it's pretty much who's going to finish second, third, and fourth now, rather than who's going to be winning it. I think AFC North's going to have a few more twists and turns. I do think the Ravens will come good. They've become a little bit predictable offensively with bringing in Derrick Henry. I know that story a little bit too well, but I think they'll come round, and that roster is way too good not to be winning that division.
How did it feel watching Derrick Henry? It's been okay so far, but then that week 3 game against the Cowboys, over 150 yards, I believe it was, rushing, 2 touchdowns, and everyone in the podcast will know my true feelings on Derrick Henry. My favourite ever all-time non-Dolphins player. So I loved watching our performance on Sunday. That touchdown, 30, 40-yard run. How does it feel for a fan of a team that he's used that his whole career until now? How does it feel watching him doing well for the Ravens?
Because it's the Ravens, it's disgusting. But no, honestly, he's a player that no Titans fan wishes anything but well with. He deserves of all the players we've had over the last 10, 15 years, he's the one that we all look at and think he deserves a ring, whether that's with the Titans or anyone else for that matter. He will go down as probably a Hall of Fame running back in this league, and no one would begrudge him that. He's been absolutely incredible. That year, I think it's 2021, when he got injured, he was on pace to probably breaking every record out there from a rushing perspective. If it wasn't for that injury, I think he would have done it. There's absolutely no doubt about it. But even in 2020, over 2,000 yards, that is some feat. The Titans have been blessed with running backs over the years, and he's one that watching him in a Ravens jersey is not easy. I won't lie. That week 1 game in particular against the Chiefs, it was a strange feeling, but in a weird way, I would love them to go and win a Super Bowl, but at the same time, I don't know if I can watch the Ravens win the Super Bowl. So maybe we'll just have to see how it goes. But yeah, it's been strange, and obviously with the Titans not doing so well and not being particularly hot, it doesn't make that any easier either.
Yeah, I'm certainly rooting for the Ravens. Always thought they were a boring team to watch, but now with Henry there, it's given me a reason to root for the Ravens to win it, and I think. I think he'll go down certainly as I think one of the best running backs, certainly of the 21st century. And I do think you're right. I think I actually had £5 on MVP back in 2021. I think he was 50-1 to win it when I did the bet start of the year. And I do believe that the way it was going, I think Rodgers, it was probably the least deserving MVP of the last 10 years. I'd say that one in 2021. I do feel like if Henry was playing the whole season and he did break the records, I do think that MVP would have come his way because there wasn't an outstanding quarterback like most years. And I do feel like Henry was, on pace to do that. And I think it's a shame. I think as well, having missing him in the playoffs. Well, you had him in the playoffs, but I don't think he was quite himself. I don't think he was quite fully healthy.
He wasn't. No. He was off the back of that injury. He'd been set out for a long time, and that was a game that was just 100% blown, but it wasn't down necessarily to Derrick Henry. You throw a pick on the first play of the game, it's you're already on the back foot. But yeah, he's somebody that definitely deserves a ring. I would never begrudge him getting one in that, even if it is with the Ravens. But he will be a player that will, the number 22 jersey will be retired at some point. Don't think anyone's taken it this year. It will be, and a Hall of Fame career that he will continue to have. He just doesn't seem to slow down. People talk about running backs once they hit 30, the fall off the cliff that a lot of them end up doing. And with him, he just seems to get stronger. And that's the style of his running. He's a lot more of a battering ram running back than maybe what you expect to see in this league in 2024. A lot of the backs are a little bit more smaller and a little bit more of a passing threat. But with him, he's old school, and we definitely miss him in Tennessee.
I bet you do. Moving on to the later slate, the first of two games at 9:05 p.m. in the UK. Commanders traveling to Arizona. Greg, who is winning this game?
I was really impressed with Washington on Monday night, but I think they're going to be again a little bit Jekyll and Hyde. I've got Arizona to win. I think it'll be again a relatively close game, but Jaden Daniels was incredible on Monday night. I don't think he'll be able to continue at that level. Was it nearly 90% pass completion or whatever it was? Like, that's just ridiculous. So I've got the Cardinals to win. Again, I think it could be a tight one, but I think they'll win it by maybe a score or two.
Well, I actually did my predictions planning on Monday morning at the Cardinals winning. But after watching that game on Monday Night Football, I'm going for the Commanders to win. I'm fully in on the Daniels hype. I was really impressed with what I saw from this Commanders team, particularly on offense. Daniels, you mentioned it then, the highest completion percentage of any rookie in history. I think Dak Prescott was second, Minshew was third. It was the first game since 1940 where there was no punts or turnovers in the game. A very clean game, and there wasn't many flags either in that game. And I think I was really impressed with. I wasn't that keen on the Dan Quinn hire. I didn't think it was an inspired move, getting a quarterback in and bringing in a defensive coach who had done well in his last job towards the end. But what I saw from the offense was really impressive to me. And I think Eckler showed he's got some life left in him as well. We talk about running backs going down. He was shown that last year with the Chargers. He showed me he could still be a guy in that game. Now, the Cardinals, they impressed me a lot in the first 2 weeks, but I was a bit let down in week 3, albeit against a good team. And I'm probably going to be proved wrong here. This could be another one where I'm massively proved wrong, but I'm going to give the Commanders a win. I'm in on the Jaden Daniels hype, and I'm going to give the Commanders another win. Next one, I think really I can not many words needed. Niners hosting the Patriots. Going to go for the Niners. Off the back of a loss, they're going to want revenge. They're going to want to get back to winning ways. The Patriots have fought tough, certainly in the first 2 games. But then the last game was a really bad showing. I don't think against this Niners team, with a defense that strong, with an offense that strong, even without McCaffrey, potentially, I don't think that's going to be enough. And I think they're going to easily get this win, the 49ers. Greg, same sentiment, or are you going for...
Yeah, comfortable win for the Niners this one. They'll bounce straight back. They're my NFC pick this year to go all the way. And if McCaffrey gets back soon, they'll start running away with that division. Comfortable win. I mean, it could be a very, very similar game to the Jets game on Thursday night, where it's the Patriots just really struggle to score points, and even if they bring in Drake May, I don't know what the situation is going to be, whether they keep Brissett in or whether they decide to bring in Drake May sooner. I don't think that's actually a wise decision to do that. I didn't mind him giving him a drive at the end of the game. Why not? But I think, that one will be a blowout win for the Niners.
Yeah. Next one, I think, could be the worst game to watch of the week. First lot of the two 9:25 p.m. kickoffs. Raiders hosting the Browns. I think I'm going to give the Browns a win, but I don't really like what I'm seeing from either team. I know the Raiders got the win against the Ravens, but for me, it's not been good for them. I think, as you all probably expected, the Browns, similar sort of thing. We thought it'd be a good defense, but a bad quarterback play, and that's how it's proved to be. But I think the defense alone, I know the Raiders had Crosby, Christian Wilkins, but the Browns for me have just better defense. They've got a better run game, and I think the weapons are better overall in Cleveland than they are in Vegas. So give me the Browns to win. Greg, Browns or Raiders?
Yeah, I've gone Browns as well. I don't like this game either. It's going to be one of those ones that I think if I can avoid to watch it, I will. But I think the Browns have got enough to beat. The Raiders were absolutely woeful against the Panthers, and I don't see this being a good season for them this year. They've shown a couple of glimpses here and there of quality, of course, but I think that I wouldn't be surprised if come week 5, week 6, we see some players on their side shopped. Someone like Davante Adams could be up for grabs to get some picks because they're nowhere near a Super Bowl window right now, which is a similar story with the Titans. But I think the Browns will win this.
Next up is our second game at 9:25. The Chiefs travel to SoFi to take on the Chargers. Greg, Chiefs or Chargers?
Yeah, Chiefs. I think the Chargers have got some major injury issues right now that haven't helped. They've actually started the season pretty well, but I think the Chiefs will go in there and win that one comfortably.
I agree. Sunday Night Football is, I think, probably is actually the tastiest game of the week. Ravens hosting the Buffalo Bills. 1:20 a.m. for those in the UK. It's a tough one to call, but I'm going to give the Bills a win. I think they're going to go 4-0. I think the Ravens got back to winning ways, but they almost let that win slip as well. They showed again, even with the win, some sort of limitations, particularly on defense. I think Marlon Humphrey has been getting a bit of stick so far this season. There's one fan who was telling him that he focuses more on his podcast than he does on the field. It's not been a good showing. I didn't check after week 3, but after week 2, they had the league's best run defense, but the league's worst pass defense. So very topsy-turvy stats when it comes to that defense. I just think the Bills look really good. I know they've played against three teams that have been terrible. Those 2 teams that have been terrible, in the Jags and the Dolphins so far this year. But they've just not just beaten teams; they've demolished teams. And if you take away that first half against the Cardinals, it's been really impressive for the Bills. I think Josh Allen looks better without Stephon Diggs, and I think the Bills, everything about them defensive-wise, they've looked good. Only let in 10 points against the Jags, only let in 10 points against the Dolphins, against what a team that has Waddle and Tyreek Hill and Mostert and A-Chain on their offense. And it's going to be a tough test against the Ravens, probably their hardest so far. But I think when you got Josh Allen, you got a chance of winning games. Now, Josh Allen, for me, I think is a fantastic quarterback. I think he's big, he's strong, he can withstand tackles, he's very durable, obviously very mobile as well, and his arm is just to die for. And I think that pains me as a Dolphins fan to praise the Bills player, but I can't not praise him. He is just a fantastic quarterback, and I think he's going to take them far once again. Every year they're in the playoffs because of him, in my opinion. And I think without a diva there who was a locker room cancer, I think he looks a lot more free. I think this team is going to take it to the Ravens, send back to earth, go 1-3, and I'll go 4-0. Greg, Bills or Ravens?
The Bills are probably the best team in football right now, based on the first 4 weeks. But I've got a lot of question marks on who they've played. I think the Cardinals week 1, I think they played them at the right time. Week 2, Miami, we all know what happened there. That game, I'm not saying it would have been different if that hadn't happened, but I think that game looked as easy as it was because of what happened with Tua. And then week 3, they played a Jags team that were nothing short of a disgrace, really. So I don't think they've really faced anyone yet. I think the Ravens are going to be turning a corner, and I think at home, I think they'll win it.
Okay, now we're on to the main event, Monday Night Football, as my team takes on your team at home, as the Dolphins play the Titans. Now, I'm going to give you the honours, Greg, because you are the guest. You can go first. Who's going to win this game?
This is probably the hardest pick for me, and it's not because of anything to do with my team, but I just don't know what's going to show up on Monday night. I've at this moment in my pick, which is what I'm basing all of this off, I've got Miami to win, but I think if the defense plays like it did in week 1 and week 2, and we just don't make silly mistakes, then it could be an easy win for the Titans. But the problem is we've not seen in any game this year a mistake-free offensive performance. And the defense, if it plays anywhere near like it did on Sunday, I think it will struggle. So I've got Miami. Again, I think it will be close. There's 2 Monday night games. If I wasn't a Titans fan, I probably wouldn't be watching this one, to be honest.
I'm the exact same. I think as a neutral, I'd much rather watch Lions Seahawks than Dolphins Titans, but we have to watch them. We have to watch them. we have to stick by our team no matter what. This is going to surprise you. I'm going for the Titans to win over the Dolphins. Wow. I just don't like what's happening at quarterback now. I think Tyler Huntley probably gives us the best chance of winning, but it's the reason why he was in the practice squad just a few months ago. And it's just, even though I've never really been Tua's biggest fan, I still think he's very average. Actually, I think he sucks, but I think he's better than way better than Huntley or Thompson. It's it just shows how much better starting quarterbacks are than backups at times. And
I think Tyler Huntley is not. He's, for us, knowing the sort of quarterbacks that have joy against the Titans, Tyler Huntley is that kind of guy. Someone who can be a bit unpredictable. He's going to get himself outside the pocket. He's not just stand in the pocket and try and throw the ball. He's gonna be moving around a bit more. And that, for me, is where my biggest issue is. If you start Tim Boyle, I want to change my prediction. But if it's going to be Tyler Huntley, I think that probably gives you the best chance of winning the game. And then it just depends on whether your defense shows up and our offense doesn't make any mistakes. If Will Levis doesn't throw any really bad interceptions, we could easily walk out with a win. But it's a big but right now because we've not seen that at all this year.
Yeah, it's like I have actually a lot of faith in the defense to give Levis some problems because we've seen him really struggle this year at times. I mean, there's been some really questionable plays and decision making. Sometimes not taking the sack, or sometimes trying to go for the miraculous play. And I think there was one point where he tried doing that and he fumbled the ball. If I'm right, my memory's right there in saying that. And I think the defense will cause us problems, but cause you guys problems. But when we gave the Seahawks rare problems last week on our defense, we never capitalized on that. Yeah. Whether that was Tim Boyle or Skylar Thompson. And for me, that's my worry. I think Huntley, he could cause some problems and he could prove me wrong and get us the win and prove your predictions to be completely right. But right now, I don't have any faith in the play calling from McDaniel either. I think that's something that really needs to be questioned. I think certainly if the way it's going this year and we miss out on the playoffs, I know he might get a free pass because of no Tua, and he's got obviously got a new deal as well, contract extension. But I think the way it's gone, I think hot seat certainly needs to be talked about a lot more with McDaniel. For me, there's been a lot of questionable calling. I mean, you have success early on with the running game with A-Chain and then tried to pass it 3 times in a row with the quarterback who's got limited experience against a run defense that at times has been the Seahawks' weakness. And for me, it's just at times where you go for on 4th down in your own half. It's just been so many questionable decisions from McDaniel, even years gone by. Again, the left in the run is something he always loves to do. I mean, remember the first 2 years he was there, the Bills game in week 14, just having such success in the run game in a snowy day, and then decide to completely neglect the run in the third and fourth quarter. So Daniel, for me, has a lot of questions around him. He really does. I think the personality is great, and I love his personality. But as a coach, I don't know whether he's even that good. So I think that could be a problem as well. And yeah, that's sort of been part of the reason why I've gone for the Titans to win this game. And yeah, it's just that quarterback sort of concern for me is massive. I don't know whether the O-line is good enough to withstand that. Now looking at the Titans' run defense, it's fairly middle of the road, so it may not be as successful as we hope for. But I think the Titans. I think again, it won't be a fun game. It'll be the worst of the two. I can see it being like a 20-17 or something, or 20-10, or 15-7 or something. I don't see it being a pretty game. I can see actually more points being scored by defense and offense. I can see more points being scored by sixes, by fumbled returns for touchdowns in the end, and I can see more of that than actual quarterback touchdowns. Running back touchdowns to TJ Spears or Tony Pollard, Mostert or A-Chain, I can see them, but I don't see many actual passing touchdowns in this game, even with Tyreek Hill, Kins and Waddle. Now, our final game is the other game, 1:15 a.m. on Monday Night Football. I don't know why they've introduced these double headers. I don't like it at all. But we've got the Lions against the Seahawks. I'm going to go for the Seahawks. The Lions have a better team, and I expect the Seahawks at some point to lose a game because not many teams go 4-0. I had this gut feeling they're going to win this game, the Seahawks. I have this feeling that, whether it's, I don't think it'll be because of Geno Smith, but I think you look at the running game, looked really good with Zach Charbonnet. Defense held up to 3 points with Miami Dolphins. It's a good defense held by a good defensive coach in Mike McDonald. And I think the Lions, may have some problems early on in consistency. I think 2-2 would be what I'm seeing in my head about the Lions going 2-2. It's in my head. I can envisage it on post week 4 when I'm previewing week 5, seeing that 2-2 next to their name. So I'm going to give the Seahawks the win. Greg, finally for you, your final prediction, Seahawks or Lions?
Yeah, I've gone Lions. I think the home field advantage kind of pushed this in that direction because I do think it'll be a close game. The Seahawks have started the season incredibly well. I think that hype train will come to an end in week 4. Again, I think it'll be close. They often are with Lions games. And I think it will be one of those ones that doesn't really have any more than maybe a score in it. But the Seahawks I agree with what you're saying around the Seahawks. They're a strange team that, in regards to, I think Charbonnet is deputized for Walker brilliantly. There's no real reason for me to say they're going to lose this game. It's just a feeling more than anything. But I think the Lions will come on strong as the year goes out. They could easily be 2-2, but I think they'll go 3-1 into the bye.
Okay, so that means our predictions are done. We have 4 different game winners in total, but we both have wins for the Cowboys, Falcons, Packers, Steelers, Jets, Eagles, Texans, Niners, Browns, Chiefs, Ravens. But then also our different predictions see myself go for the Rams over the Bears. Greg's gone for the Bears. Myself to go for the Panthers over the Bengals. Greg, the Bengals. Myself to go for the Commanders over the Cardinals. Greg to go for the Cardinals. So in a real amazing twist of fate, I've gone for my team to lose against Greg's team, and Greg's gone for his team to lose against my team. So I've gone for the Titans, he's gone for the Dolphins, and then finally the other game on Monday Night Football, I went for the Seahawks, and Greg went for the Lions. But yeah, that is our Week 4 preview in the book. So once again, thank you, Greg, for coming on today.
No, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It's always fun when to chat football with you.
Well, likewise, they're always good having you on. And all I can say is good luck for Monday night. I'll give you a little virtual handshake ahead of the Monday night game, and I wish you all the best. Now, I'll be doing what I did for the last game we had on a primetime game against the Bills. I'll be trying to, pretty easy when your phone's not allowed in work, I'm going to try and avoid the score the whole day, and I'm going to watch it at around about 4:35 p.m. when I get in. So you may not hear from me throughout most of Monday, but I'll be sure to send you a little Twitter DM or X DM when I finish watching the game.
I'll be watching it live, which is going to play havoc with my jet lag that I'm still currently going through, because I'll just about get back into British into UK time, and then I'll be up until 4 a.m. watching us probably lose to the Dolphins. So unless Tim Boyle plays.
Or Skylar Thompson.
Or Skylar, yeah, that's true. That's true. That is the funny thing with this is I would take those two over Tyler Huntley any day of the week, which seems weird to say as a guy who's practice squad QB, but he for some reason Tyler Huntley just feels like he's can beat the Titans written all over him. Whereas with the other two, I'd be a lot more comfortable.
I don't know whether it's because he's well coached at the Ravens, but I think at the Ravens I found that he had these only got one-on-one game in the Blue Moon. He'd have these really good performances. I think there's been times where Jackson's been injured. He's come in and he's looked good, particularly the first game he's played in a while. But then eventually, teams have more tape on him and it ends up going against him. But I do feel like he's got a game in him. But whether that's on Monday night, I don't know. We are at home and we all be looking for revenge after what happened last season. So, yeah, hopefully I'll have a lot more of a worthwhile phone detox all day. Because I think last time I thought I've gone all day avoiding my phone and we go out and play as badly as this. But I'm hoping this time it'll be a lot more of a positive outlook on having no phone all day.
I think if we end up going 0-4 into the bye, don't be surprised if there's some teams trading for DeAndre Hopkins. I think he could be for a receiver needy team, somebody who will be on the block not because he's not played well by any stretch. It's just coming towards the end of his contract. We are desperate for picks this coming year. He's definitely one that I would see being moved on if we go into the bye 0-4. So yeah, we'll see how it pans out. But I look forward to hearing your thoughts on the game once you've watched it back. Yeah,
I'll make sure the first thing I do when I finish the game is to message you and share my thoughts with you on what is hopefully a 25-19 win for the Dolphins. But we'll find out soon enough on the Across the Pod NFL podcast. This has been our Week 4 preview with myself, your host Andy Davis, and our guest today, Titans fan Greg Kett. And we'll see you guys for our Week 4 review. Catch you then.